Today, we're breaking down a powerful concept that can completely change how women respond to you, especially as you get older. And here's what surprises most men. It has nothing to do with money, nothing to do with looks, and nothing to do with clever pickup lines or manipulation tactics. Instead, it comes down to two simple words. When used correctly, these words activate something much deeper in the female mind, emotional connection points that most men never access. I'll explain exactly what those words are. I'll explain the psychology behind them. But there's one detail almost everyone misses. And that detail is what separates the men women forget from the men they keep thinking about. Stay until the end. This can permanently change the way you communicate. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And when it comes to communication, how you express your desires and appreciation is a reaction that reveals everything about your internal state. If you react with hesitation, you reveal insecurity. If you react with clarity and intent, you reveal self-mastery. And that self-mastery is what makes you unforgettable. For years, I've analyzed thousands of interactions between men and women. And here's what became clear. The men who attract the most are not always the best looking. They're not always the richest. They are the men who understand direct emotional communication. While most men get stuck in safe, empty conversations, trying to be liked, trying not to say the wrong thing, the men who stand out do the opposite. They communicate with clarity and intent. They use two words that act like master keys to the female subconscious. The human brain is wired to respond to specific communication patterns. And when these two words are used correctly, they create what psychologists call positive emotional anchoring. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When your thoughts are colored by hesitation and fear, your communication reflects that. But when your thoughts are colored by clarity and confidence, your words carry weight. And that weight is what she will feel." Let's break it down. The first word is I want. It sounds almost too simple. But listen closely to what happens when a man says I want with calm confidence. He takes responsibility for his desire. He's not asking permission. He's not hinting. He's not waiting for approval. He's being direct. And here's something critical about female psychology. Women are naturally drawn to men who know what they want. Why? Because it signals leadership. It signals decisiveness. It signals that you can handle direction instead of placing that burden on her. Now compare these two statements. I don't know. Maybe we could hang out sometime if you want. Versus, I want to take you out Saturday. I know a place you'll enjoy. Feel the difference. One communicates hesitation. The other communicates presence. You're not chasing. You're leading. This isn't aggression. It's assertiveness. It's having the courage to take up space and say, this is what I want. When you do that, you activate something called sexual polarity. You step into the masculine role of initiative, which naturally awakens the feminine desire to respond. But here's the dark truth that most men never understand. When you don't know what you want, or when you're too afraid to say it, you become invisible. Not because women are cruel, but because uncertainty is not attractive. It never has been. It never will be. Women are wired to be drawn to certainty, to direction, to a man who can make a decision and stand by it. And when you can't do that, she feels it. She doesn't think about it consciously, but she feels it in her gut. And that feeling is what pushes her away. Now comes the second word. And this is the one that changes everything. I appreciate. This is where depth enters the equation. If a man only uses I want, he risks sounding self-focused. But when I want is paired with I appreciate, balance is created. Initiative plus emotional intelligence. Let me give you an example. Instead of saying, I want to see you again, you say, I want to see you again because I appreciate the way you think. Our conversations have real depth. Notice what changed. You didn't just express desire, you showed awareness. You showed presence. You showed that you actually see her. Most men compliment looks. Very few acknowledge essence. And that distinction is powerful. When appreciation is genuine, you're not seeking validation. You're making a conscious choice. And women can feel that difference instantly. Seneca wrote, True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future. When you express appreciation, you are present. You are not anxiously dependent on her approval. You are simply acknowledging what you value, and that presence is what makes her feel seen. But here's where it gets dark. Most men can't do this. They can't express genuine appreciation because they're too focused on what they want to get from her. They're transactional. They're calculating. And women can smell that from a mile away. When you say, "I appreciate," but you're really thinking, "I want to get you into bed," she knows. She may not say it, but she knows. And it repels her. Because appreciation without sincerity is just manipulation. And manipulation is the opposite of attraction. The true power of "I appreciate" comes from authenticity. It comes from actually noticing something about her that has nothing to do with what she can give you. It's about seeing her as a person, not as a prize. And when you can do that, you become different from every other man she's ever met. If this resonates with you, take a moment and like the video. It tells the algorithm and me that you're serious about self-mastery. Now, let's address the mistake that ruins all of this: incongruence. Congruence means your words, tone, and body language are aligned. If you say, "I want to take you to dinner," but your posture collapses, your eyes avoid contact, and your voice shakes, your body contradicts your words, and the female brain notices immediately. It's an emotional lie detector. So, when you say, "I want," stand grounded. Shoulders relaxed, eyes steady. When you say, "I appreciate," slow down. Lower your voice slightly. Let the sincerity breathe. This is the difference between words that land and words that disappear. Epictetus taught, "No great thing is created suddenly," and the ability to communicate with congruence is no exception. It is created through practice, through awareness, through the willingness to be present. And as you build that congruence, it becomes part of your presence. And that presence is what she will feel. Here's the brutal truth. Most men are so disconnected from themselves that they don't even know when they're being incongruent. They think they're being genuine, but their bodies are screaming insecurity. And women, who have been reading emotional cues their entire lives, pick up on that instantly. They may not be able to put it into words, but they feel it. And that feeling is what makes them pull away. So if you want to be truly attractive, you have to start by being truly honest with yourself. You have to know what you want. You have to know why you want it. And you have to be able to express it without apology. Because when you can do that, you become a man of substance. And a man of substance is a man who cannot be ignored. This level of depth is what I teach in my Full Attraction Guide, where the focus isn't just what to say, but how to carry yourself so your presence has weight. One final point: timing. You don't repeat these words constantly like a script. You use them intentionally at moments that matter. For example, at the end of a meaningful date. You look her in the eyes and say, "I want to do this again. I appreciate the energy you bring." That's it. You've just created a positive emotional anchor. From that moment on, when she thinks of you, she remembers feeling seen, valued, and desired at the same time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you can communicate with clarity and intent, you are exercising that power. You are not letting fear control your words. You are standing in your own truth. And that truth is what makes you unforgettable. Let me give you a real example of how this plays out. I knew a man named David, age 52. He had been dating a woman for a few weeks. The chemistry was good, but something was missing. He was always asking her what she wanted to do, where she wanted to eat, what she thought about things. He thought he was being considerate, but she was losing interest. He was frustrated. He was doing everything right, or so he thought. Then I told him about these two words. A few days later, he was on another date with her. At the end of the night, instead of saying, "Maybe we can do this again sometime," he looked her in the eyes and said, "I want to see you again. I appreciate the way you make me think." Her entire demeanor changed. She leaned in. She smiled. She said, "I'd like that." And that was the turning point. He had finally communicated with clarity. He had taken responsibility for his desire. He had shown her that he saw her. And that changed everything. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." David had been wasting his time communicating from a place of fear. When he shifted to communicating from a place of clarity, everything changed. And it can change for you too. But here's the dark truth that nobody wants to admit. Most men are afraid to say, "I want." They're afraid of being rejected. They're afraid of being seen as too forward. They're afraid of being vulnerable. And that fear is what holds them back. They hide behind safe words, safe questions, safe interactions, and they wonder why they never get what they want. But the man who can say, "I want," with calm confidence, the man who can express his desire without apology, that man is rare. And because he is rare, he is valuable. Women are drawn to him because he represents something that most men don't. Certainty, direction, strength. And that is what she is really looking for. Not a man who will agree with everything she says. Not a man who will bend over backward to please her. But a man who knows what he wants and isn't afraid to say it. Now, let's talk about "I appreciate" in more depth. This is where most men fail. They think that appreciation is about compliments. They think if they tell her she's beautiful, she'll feel appreciated. But that's surface level. True appreciation is about seeing who she is as a person. It's about acknowledging the qualities that make her unique. It's about showing her that you see beyond the surface. And that takes effort. It takes attention. It takes presence. Most men don't have that. They're too focused on themselves to really see her. But when you can say, "I appreciate the way you think," or "I appreciate the energy you bring," or "I appreciate your honesty," you are showing her that you are paying attention. And that is deeply attractive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your thoughts are colored by genuine appreciation, your soul reflects that, and she will feel it. She will sense that you are different. And that difference is what will make her want to be around you. The combination of these two words creates something powerful. "I want" shows her that you have direction. "I appreciate" shows her that you have depth. Together, they create a man who is both strong and sensitive. A man who can lead and also see. A man who can take initiative and also acknowledge. And that is the kind of man women don't forget. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you react to a woman by expressing your desire and appreciation with clarity and congruence, you are reacting from strength. You are not being controlled by fear. You are standing in your own power. And that power is what makes you irresistible. So, here is what I want you to take away from this. Communication is not about saying the right thing. It's about saying the true thing. It's about being honest about what you want and honest about what you value. And when you can do that, you become a man of substance. A man of substance is a man who cannot be ignored. He doesn't need to chase. He doesn't need to beg. He simply is. And that presence is what attracts women. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus also taught, "No great thing is created suddenly." And the ability to communicate with clarity and intent is no exception. It is created through practice, through self-awareness, through the willingness to be honest. And as you build that ability, it becomes part of your presence. And that presence is what she will be drawn to. If you want more content like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. You don't need perfection. You need alignment. Use this wisely. Use it with integrity. See you next time. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you cultivate thoughts of clarity, confidence, and genuine appreciation, your soul reflects that, and women will see it. They will feel it, and they will be drawn to it. Because in a world of men who are afraid to say what they want, a man who can speak with clarity and presence is a rare and precious thing. Be that man, build that life, and watch how everything changes.